Hello and welcome to The Ordeal. So one of my Australian fans asked me to do a review of this video here, which is purported to be extreme feminist ideas being taught in Australian schools. Before we get started on the video, please like, comment, share. Click that red button below the video and the bell next to it for notifications. I'm trying to beat the algorithm, and as you can see by my subscriber count, I am not doing that. So share this video with as many people as you can and watch it till the very end. When you do both of those things, you increase my odds of beating the algorithm. And make sure you're still subscribed to my channel. I'm finding out that YouTube is actually legitimately unsubscribing people. It's not just a rumor, it's true. So let's take a look at the video.
This is the story of a boy and a girl. It's a universal story and an Australian story. It's a story that occurs every 2 minutes, in fact. A story that happens 657 times a day, every day of the year, and in every kind of household and every city and region across Australia.
Okay, it says in every kind of household. So what this video is about, which we'll see here in a moment, is domestic violence. And the statistical analysis shows that it's actually happening in certain types of households more than others.
This is the biggest story behind violence against women. This story doesn't have a happy ending. Because this is the story of how gender inequality contributes to the murder of one Australian woman almost every week.
Really, what about the murder of one Australian man almost every month? I know that, that's 12 compared to 50 that's a big difference there. I get it. I'm not stupid. I understand numbers. But why are we only focusing on one gender in this situation?
Sounds like a tall tale, right? Let's take things back to the start. Here's the story of a regular woman. As a girl, she gets told how pretty she is, never how clever she is. That if she were...
I was never told that I was clever as a child. Maybe I'm stupid. I don't know what else to tell you. I was told I was a handsome boy. I was not told that I was clever. Maybe this is an Australian thing, that they don't compliment little boys on their looks, but they compliment them on their brains. Maybe one of my Australian fans can tell me if that's the case.
Wears a short dress, she's asking for it.
Well, you present yourself in a certain way to the world. If you wear a short dress, you're trying to be provocative in that way. You're trying to entice men. These women always scream about, oh, I wear makeup for me. It's for me. It makes me feel good. Well, it makes you feel good because you are attractive to the opposite gender. That's how that works. You might not realize it, but that's what's really happening, is you're appealing in a way that is enticing to men, and that makes you feel good. It might not be what you're thinking, but that's the truth behind it. If you wear provocative clothing, revealing clothing, you're going to invite unwanted attention. And I'm assuming you're not looking for that attention. If you're not looking for attention from men, then don't dress in a way that's going to garner attention from men. Does that mean that men should attack you and force intimacy on you? No, of course not. But don't do things that are going to lead the bad apples amongst the civilization to want to do those things to you. You don't make it easy for them, right? If I were a female, I'd be locking that stuff down. It'd be like, you're not getting my clothes off. There's like barbed wire and chains and padlocks and everything. It's like, I don't want that to happen to me, then I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen to me. I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want to be assaulted that way. I go through different lengths in my life to make sure that doesn't happen. I've studied martial arts extensively in my lifetime. I have owned several deadly weapons. They're all legal, but I still, I'm prepared so that circumstance doesn't happen to me. I don't want that to happen to me, so I'm prepared to keep it from happening to me.
She grows up and gets used to being harassed by men on the street. That's just the way it is.
Oh, can you define harassment, please? Remember that video a few years ago? I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have seen it. It's about the girl walking around New York City proving that men are predators. She walks around New York City for like 12 hours and like 5 men say hello or good morning to you. One dude walks along beside her for like half a block, tries to get her attention. Yes, it was just awful harassment that you suffered. And that's the thing. It's like, define these terms. What is harassment? What is it? Because I've been accused of mistreating women. I've never mistreated a woman. And I know other men who have been accused of this stuff just for giving a compliment. It's like you can't even give a compliment to a woman unless you're willing to accept the consequences that you're going to be fired, you're going to be written up, you're going to have legal action taken against you. These are not things that should happen for just giving a compliment to somebody. Right? Compliments are not harassment. Talking to somebody is not harassment. Saying hello to somebody is not harassment.
Don't say hello to me, bitch. Don't say hello. I don't play that sexual harassment shit. Let me get your address.
Okay.
Here's the story of a regular man. As a boy, he learns that women aren't equal to men from a very early age.
Right. I learned in the United States that women are better than men in every single way. I don't know what they teach you in Australia, but hey, in the United States, it's boys are snips and snails, puppy dog tails, women are sugar, spice, everything nice. That's how it is. And I've been told repeatedly throughout my grade school years that the boys were the problems and the girls were good and the boys were problems. And yeah, typically it's like girls are better behaved than boys. But that changes when we get into the teenage years. Girls start becoming vindictive and mean and just unpleasant people. Not all, of course. There are plenty of very nice women in the world. But in the Western world, we're teaching our women that like there's no consequences to their actions, so they can behave and misbehave as much as they want to any degree, and it's fine. They can do no wrong. There's no ability to judge a woman negatively. You're not allowed to do that. It's bad. It's wrong. But judge a man negatively all the time. Men are the perpetrators. Men are the evil ones. And I'm assuming this is a similar thing in Australia because Europeans are the same a lot of times.
Even though both his parents work, on the weekends his mum does the housework while dad watches sport.
Where does this happen? This is what happens in Australia? The man is lazy, doesn't do any of the chores around the house. And like I stated in previous videos, often the woman wants things to be cleaner, so if she wants them to be done, then she's going to do them. There's a buddy of mine, he was telling me that in his marriage, he did like 90% of the housework. He took care of the kids, he did all the cleaning, and she didn't do any of that stuff. So it goes both ways. Just because it appears this is the case doesn't mean it is the case. This is negotiated by the family, by the couple. And if the boy is seeing this and thinking it's okay, well then who are you going to get to change it? You want the boy to change it? Do you want the adults to change it? Does it need to be changed? I think it does need to be changed. I think women need to be staying home and doing all the housework. There you go. Problem solved. Take care of the kids, take care of the house while the man goes out and supports you. That was a model that we used for thousands of years that allowed us to become super highly advanced in the West. And now you're saying, oh no, that's not the right way of doing it. It's not the right way of doing it. We got to change this. Women have to be on top. You're claiming you want women to be equal, but you're actually wanting women to be on top.
When he cries about being bullied at school, his dad tells him to stop being such a girl and just punch him right back. Technically speaking, we'd say that these social norms, practices and structures have shaped both the boy and the girl, creating a society where women are valued less and men are expected to be dominant and in control.
Really, just because somebody is dominant and in control doesn't mean that the other person is valued less. That point of view is very myopic. Women have all of the real power because without women you can't have a civilization. You can have as many men as you want to, but you need women in there to have a civilization, period. You can have very few men. As long as you have a lot of women, you can have a civilization. You can't do it the other way around. So men put everything on the line, really, when it comes down to it. That's what we're supposed to do. Now, things are changing for the worse because for some reason we're allowing women into combat roles in the United States. Why we would ever do that is beyond me because men are going to be better capable of handling any kind of combat. Even though we use guns now, still men are better because they can march longer, they can march faster, and they can carry more on average than a woman can. So men are just better at combat. So since men have to make that sacrifice, we actually have to in the United States. There's this thing called the draft. Women don't have that restriction put on them. Like I had to sign up for selective services when I turned 18. It's the law. If you don't, you can get into big trouble in the United States. So since men have to put all that on the line, well then hey, women should listen to what men have to say.
In such a world, disrespect and hostility is excused, and violence against women is far more likely.
Okay, I'm sorry, but that's not acceptable, and it shouldn't be excused. You should not strike anyone, unless it is, say, a life and death situation. Then okay, you can. If somebody attacks you, you can strike them, or if you are saving somebody's life and it is required that you strike someone in the process, then okay, that's okay too. But otherwise, there's no reason to strike anyone. Why would you ever want to strike someone, especially someone you supposedly cared about? I've never committed an act of violence against any one of my girlfriends or my wife, ever. Sitting here and demonizing men is not going to solve your problem, because I just put myself in the situation. If I'm an Australian man and I've never done any of these things to women, it sounds like you're accusing me of doing something wrong when I listen to this video.
But back to our story. The girl grows up into a woman, the boy grows into a man, and they begin to date. He jokes that he hopes she doesn't get fat now that we're together.
Yeah, she actually shouldn't do that. Women, if you're a woman out there listening to this video and you're overweight, lose the weight. You might have a health problem that causes you to gain the weight, but most of the time it's just going to be calories in versus calories out. And this is what men find attractive right here. This is no mystery. This is not like this is some secret that we've been keeping from women our whole lives. No, we know what men like in the shape of a female body. There are some exceptions. So if you are a chubby chaser, if you're a man out there and you're a chubby chaser, stop it. Start thinking like a normal man. Why? Why am I telling you to do this? I'm not trying to be rude to you or mean to you. I'm telling you this so that everybody can be better. It needs to be known that, hey, I'm a woman. I can't be chubby. I can't be overweight. I have to be thin, or else I'm not going to attract a man to me. It's that simple. I'm going to be single. I'm going to be lonely. Nobody's going to like me, at least not enough to be with me intimately. And there's nothing at all wrong with saying, hey, guess what? You shouldn't be overweight. I know that I'm fat shaming right now. I know I'm just a terrible human being for saying that being thin is healthier for you and better for you in the appearance category than being heavy. I'm thin. I tell it all the time. Look at my avatar. This is a pretty accurate representation. It's obviously exaggerated, but if you saw me in real life, you'd be like, okay, yeah, I can see why you made that avatar. It looks a lot like you. If you have a health problem, like if you have a tumor on your pituitary, you're going to gain weight. There's nothing that you can do about that. And I've tried dating girls for like, well, what if I get fat and blah, blah. I'm like, look, the only reason for you to gain weight is like if you have one of these health problems that you can't just solve by eating fewer calories. So if you have a tumor on your pituitary, just get surgery on it, get it removed, and you'll lose weight. And I'm deathly afraid of surgery. Oh, so having to have your knees replaced, that's 2 operations, by the way. Having to have your knees replaced, having to have open heart surgery, having to have possibly bariatric surgery, and then possibly operation on your pituitary, on your thyroid, liposuction. Those surgeries, they're okay. You'll go through those 8-9 surgeries, but having one surgery to remove the tumor from your pituitary, that's unacceptable. So this is the problem. Is like women want to have their cake and eat it too, and they can't. It's like, just get the one surgery. Don't go through the hassle of destroying your entire body and then having multiple surgery. It doesn't make any sense.
She's not sure whether she should laugh. They have the same education and do similar work, yet he earns more money.
Why? That's illegal, isn't it, in Australia? Why would he earn more money?
He's quickly promoted, like other men in the company, while she gets overlooked.
Really? So do you suppose it is he's putting in more hours? Is that why he makes more money? Like if he's an hourly employee and he gets okayed to get overtime, so he works 20 hours in a day, whereas she works 8 hours in a day, which I've known men who've done that. I mean, I've known men who were sleeping on the office floor because they had so much work to do, whereas the women were going home. Well, who gets paid more in that scenario? Who is more likely to get promoted in that scenario? The women are actually. In the United States, the women are more likely to get promoted in that scenario. Because we are so determined to make sure that they prove women can lead, women can do it, women are strong and independent and they can do it. They don't need no man. While the men are over there actually buoying up the women who would sink without them. So back to reality here. Let's watch the video.
At home, she does all the household chores, and he takes control of their joint finances, seeing as he's the main breadwinner and all.
Okay. In what reality do you live where the woman does all of the chores? Is this actually the case in Australia, where most of the women are doing all the chores in their personal lives? Because I can tell you that doesn't happen in the United States. Even when I look at my parents, which were way more traditional than I am, and my mother stayed home and worked in the home, my father still did housework. It wasn't like, oh, he's going to do a load of laundry. Oh, he's going to do the dishes. Oh, he's going to vacuum the floor. No, what it was was this thing here broke and we need you to fix it. Okay, he would fix it. Oh, the car tire went flat. Oh, he changes the car tire. The door fell off the hinge here. Oh, let's go ahead and have Dad fix that. You know, it was the bigger things that my father took care of. And on top of which he also, he worked 40, sometimes 50 hours a week. My mother didn't do that. And what's wrong with having that situation? Why can't we have that situation? And I'm not saying that women shouldn't be working necessarily, because women have always worked. It's no secret, especially European women, because they had to. They had to work. There just was so much work to do to make sure that you didn't starve through winter, right? Because winters, especially in Northern Europe, they are deadly. So women had to work so that you could have enough food to survive the winter. All right, moving on back to reality here.
When they're at the pub, he puts her down in front of his mates.
Oh, so he's just a jerk. Why would you put down your domestic partner, whether you're male or female? You should not. So my Australian fans tell me, like, is this the case? Is like, do men talk badly about their partners right in front of them, especially? You don't put down your partners. And this might be a maturity thing. Maybe he's a young man who doesn't know any better. Maybe he hasn't socialized correctly. Maybe if we focused on actually teaching people proper social interaction in high school instead of focusing on fractions, because, that's been so useful in my life, although I do use fractions on a regular basis. But, I mean, what things did I study in high school that I don't even remember studying because they were that unimportant?
His friends stay quiet. In the morning, he wakes up and blames the alcohol. And stress. He always has an excuse.
Well, those excuses aren't acceptable. I mean, if you're abusing someone, you don't have an excuse. There's no excuse for abusing another human being. I'm stating it flat out. Why aren't we focusing on the women who abuse their men? Why does it always have to be one-sided? I'm all willing to say, hey, look, women are abused. That's perfectly understandable. Women do get abuse from men. But men get abuse from women too. And maybe women get more abuse than men do, but still we shouldn't just be like, oh, men don't get any abuse.
When she gets pregnant, her boss says she can't come back part-time. After the baby is born, the lack of flexible job opportunities and childcare keeps her out of the workforce.
Okay, so you want to get rid of capitalism? Capitalism has done more to benefit humanity, to raise the standard of living of humanity than anything else, supposedly. The lack of job opportunities I don't think has anything to do with the fact that there's domestic violence. But it doesn't seem, those two things don't seem to match up to each other. Women have job opportunities, but they have fewer when they get pregnant and have children. Somebody has to raise the children. Why would you have children if you didn't want to raise them anyway? I understand that we live in a situation where somebody has to work to bring home money. If you are lucky enough to be able to spend time with your children every single day, great, take advantage of that, because not everybody has that opportunity.
She is socially isolated and financially dependent on him. He controls decision-making, and her. They are not equals.
Okay, why is he being such a jerk? I mean, I listen to what my wife has to say. We discuss things. We talk about, hey, let's do it this way. Let's try it this way. She is very insightful on things that I'm not insightful on, and vice versa. You're never going to have a relationship where somebody doesn't have to compromise. It should certainly not always be the woman. If this is the case in Australia, if you're seeing this happen persistently where women are being basically enslaved by their men, then yeah, that's wrong. That shouldn't happen. Why is it happening so much in Australia?
She is dependent on him for everything. So she never tells anyone that he has started to hit her.
Okay, so if somebody hits you, you go to the police. It's that simple. If somebody hits you, you go to the police, especially if you have a mark on your body and you can prove that, look, there was damage done to me. If your partner is hitting you, you leave immediately. You get out of that situation. You do not stay in that situation, because that could escalate to murder. Or it could be something that is horrendous. We hear these stories about women getting acid thrown in their faces coming out of the Middle East by their husbands. And that's 100% wrong. These women their faces are mutilated for the rest of their lives. Trying to control somebody through violence is 100% immoral. And especially in your personal relationships. Why would you be in that relationship with that person if you need to resort to violence to try and control them? We're supposed to talk out our differences, talk out our issues.
She doesn't say anything to her family or friends. She grows more isolated. She has nothing else but him. So she lives with the violence until their story ends, one way or another.
Say it with me now. Alimony. Does Australia not have alimony laws? I mean, if she doesn't have a job and she can't get a job because she's too busy taking care of the children, so she can't afford to leave him, the law in the United States is, hey, guess what you have to pay for her? And it's not a small percentage of your check. It's a huge amount of your check. It's like 50%. And depending on how much you make, if you make $500,000 a year, that's $250,000 a year you're paying to your ex. And that money comes right out of your paycheck. If you're getting a paycheck, that money comes right out of your paycheck. You don't even see it. It just goes right into her account or his account, depending. So yeah, this is no reason to stay in an abusive relationship.
This story isn't a one-off. It's a story shared by 1 in 4 Australian women who have experienced physical or sexual violence from a current or former partner.
Yeah, that's a huge percentage of your population, 25% of your female population. That's 12.5% of your overall population. Not to mention the fact that there are men who go through the same thing. So you're looking at something like 20% of your population experiencing this stuff. Is this accurate? Somebody from Australia, do you have better statistics than I have on these rates of violence? Because this is obscene, the amount of domestic violence that is being played out in your country, if this is accurate.
And it's a story of 1 in 5 women since the age of 15 who experience sexual violence, including rape, 1 in 4 emotional violence.
Okay, so the intimate assault thing here that they're talking about, that is 1 in 4, really? Like I said, I'm not Australian, so I don't know. They pull the same thing here in the United States, and I'll look at some of the United States numbers here shortly. They're trying to say like 1 in 6 or so, 1 in 5, 1 in 3 women in the United States. These numbers are blown way out of proportion when it comes to this forced intimacy. I'm not using the R word because YouTube doesn't like it. Even though I'm not monetized or anything, I'm trying to get in the habit now in case I ever am monetized. So this 104 number, I'm sure, is way blown out of proportion. Like I said, it's the same thing in the United States. I used to do martial arts a lot. I did these forced intimacy prevention seminars, and we were using the numbers back then of like, I think it was like 31.5% or something like that of women are victims of this crime. The FBI was reporting that. I'm like, wow, that's a lot. But looking back now over my life, I've known thousands of women, thousands of them. Like 5 have ever admitted to me that they've been a victim of forced intimacy. Granted, not all of them I've known well enough to, that they would tell me about such a thing. But still, that's a tiny percentage. That's less than 1% of the number of women I've known. So yeah, I'm gonna go with a no on this 1 in 4, 1 in 5 women have experienced this crime of forced intimacy. These are blown way out of proportions. I've heard other numbers like 1 in 50. That seems more reasonable to me. And I've seen everything in between that and 1 in 1,000 and everything. And a while ago, a long time ago actually now, I did a video on this crime happening in it because somebody was claiming that the United States is number 1 in the world for forced intimacy as a crime. And I'm like, that seems way wrong. And I was finding statistics all over the place from it's the number 1 country to every number beyond that, so the number 2, number 3, so on and so forth, all the way down to where it wasn't even on their chart of the countries. It didn't even register on the chart of the top 50 countries or whatever. So this is a rare crime, especially anymore in the Western world. It's very rare. It does happen. It should never happen, but it's much rarer than these supposed statistics are showing us.
And 1 in 3 women physical violence. But it's also a story that affects children. More than half of the women who experienced violence had children in their care when the violence occurred. For victims and perpetrators, violence against women is the conclusion often reached after a life lived in a society where women and men aren't treated equally. But we, you and I, can change the narrative. Better education, policies, practices, support and funding can prevent this all too common story. When women and men have equal power, value, and opportunities in relationships and in society, violence against women is less likely.
Really? Can you prove that? I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that there's greater gender equality in Australia now than there was 60 years ago. Yet for some reason, the statistics I'm seeing claim that Australia is seeing an increase in domestic violence. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you about that other than you're wrong. It's the same thing that they're trying to say in the United States. The domestic violence is on the rise, but yeah, so we need more equality. But yeah, you're right. Women already have the majority of the rights in the country, so I don't know what you're talking about.
By nurturing caring, respectful and equal relationships, and by creating equitable and inclusive communities, workplaces and institutions, we can create a society of equality and respect, where violence against women is unthinkable. Let's change the story, because ending violence against women starts with gender equality.
But you already have legal gender equality. What more can you get? I mean, if it's illegal to treat the genders in an unequal manner, what more can you do other than find the perpetrators of the crimes and then convict them so that it reduces the chances of this happening? So let's take a look at some numbers here to see what's actually happening. There's roughly 25 million people in Australia. And look here, this is I couldn't find good numbers. I mean, these might be great numbers. This might be a perfect number. So right here it says 17% of women and 6% of men have experienced violence since the age of 15. That would be less than 25% of your female population. 17% is a smaller number than 25%. This message goes out to the people who made the video. So I'm not sure how you're calculating these numbers, because look, 17% of the female population, right here we got 6% of the men. It's weird, these are inverted. So 17% is 1 out of every 6, and 6% is 1 out of every 16. So they're opposites. It's so funny. I'm seeing this 1 in 6 number for women a lot. If we go through here, I got some other images here. So let's make this one here a little bit bigger. So 1 in 6 women. See, 1 in 6 women again, physical or intimate, and then 1 in 16 men. So it's weird how they're inverted like that. I have experienced this is the violence. So 1 in 5 women, 1 in 20 men. Again, I'm sure that number is inflated. Do you know like 20% of the women that have they actually experienced this crime? Think about it. If you're Australian, ask yourself if you are aware of that happening so frequently. Even one time is wrong. 1 in 25 million is wrong. I'm not saying that it's okay because these numbers are a myth. I'm just saying that they're blowing this out of proportion to try and manipulate you to do things that they want you to do. So, you got 1 woman every week, 1 man every month. Yes, I talked about this already. This one here. This one is... I mentioned this is not happening in every household. Look at this. An Aboriginal woman is 35 times more likely to be hospitalized due to family violence compared to a non-Aboriginal woman. This chart here doesn't make any sense. This says 35%, and over here they're saying 35 times. So ignore the little chart, the little graphic. Right there you go. It's not a message that really needs to be spread amongst those of European ancestry in Australia so much as it is the Aboriginal people. So what is the reason for this? Most likely it's cultural. Because I can guarantee you right now that, the white men in the country aren't going up to the Aboriginal men and going, hey, you have to assault your wife. That's not happening. Maybe there's a few that try to do that, but they're just going to tell them to screw off and walk away from them. Let me see. The probability of an Aboriginal child under 5 years to die as a result of assault is 4 times higher compared to their white peer. So right here, again, this is a cultural thing amongst the non-whites in Australia. And I not mean to throw them under the bus, but these are what the statistics are showing me right here on this graphic. I mean, I don't know what to tell you other than what I'm reading. And the nicest thing I can say is, look, it's a cultural thing, right? It's part of that culture, that way of life. Everybody's going to say that I'm racist because I'm not saying that the white man is keeping them down. That's why they're doing it. Okay, well, if that is actually the case, prove it then. If it really is the case that it's the white men causing this to happen, then prove that. Because I know the white men are the big baddies in our society anymore in the Western world. We're the worst. I know. The probability of an Aboriginal woman living in rural and remote areas to experience domestic violence is 45 times higher than their white peers. Okay. Again, the Aboriginal people are having this issue more than the white people. But we can see the numbers can be varied a little bit here. 1 in 3 women have experienced physical violence since the age of 15. That's different from 1 in 6 we were seeing before. So what numbers do I trust here? What numbers are the ones that are they're accurate in this situation? And this is much worse when I deal with the statistics for the United States. So when we come into here and we look at this annual cost of the United States, and it comes down here, it talks about more than 1 in 10 men, 11.5%, are victims of this physical violence, and 1 in 4 women are the victims. But I see numbers. I mean, when I had to do HR training. This wasn't in 2020. It was in 2019 because everything got closed down in 2020, right? But in 2019, I had to do this, and they were saying 30% of men, 1 in 3 men, have experienced domestic violence that are married. And, most men get married. Something like 90% of men get married in the United States, 95% of men. And they were saying that, it's a 1 in 2 women. So 1 in 2 women and 1 in 3 men in the United States. So where these numbers are just all over the place. Let's see what else we got. Okay, so here's another. So one out of 4 women have been victims of severe physical violence in an intimate relationship. And then over here we have 1 out of 7 men. The numbers are, again, they're not. 4 out of 5 victims of violence with their intimate partner were female. But that's not the numbers that I was given in the HR meeting that I had to attend. You're looking at a much different percentage right there. It's not 4 out of 5. I mean, it's more like 3 out of 5. And then the other 2 are men. And then we have this right here, 1 in 4 women. So what numbers do we go with? 1 in 4 women. We got stalkings over here, and they're not defining what is severe physical violence. What is severe physical violence? Is it one hit? Is it actually being beaten to a pulp? There's a lot of difference between those two things. So define your terms. Give me accurate statistics. Show me how you're getting these statistics. Go to these different sources that are accurate. Tell me what's really happening instead of just making a video that's supposed to paint men in a bad light. It's not about men being bad. Yes, there are bad men. Yes, there are men who make mistakes and do these terrible things who are otherwise decent human beings. But there are women who are, the same. There are women who are good people in every aspect of their life, but then they have a mean streak when they get home and they abuse their spouses or their children. Then women are the number one cause of child abuse. And so we can look at something like this right here. Why aren't we talking about abusive moms? No one wants to talk about it. Society is totally in denial that women aren't always victims. So why aren't we talking about abusive moms? Did you know that children are more likely to be harmed by their biological mother than their biological father? Imagine that. But, women are the victims. We are putting women first. Women can do no wrong. We're putting them before our children. And this is really disgusting that we would say that, women are perfect. They're on a pedestal. They're the goddesses of our society. They can do no wrong. And at the same time, we're letting our children suffer because of it. So, this is a mess. And we need to start focusing on people instead of on individual groups. You want to pull on the heartstrings of men or society in general and say, look, women are the victims here. Women are the ones who are suffering. Women are the ones who are having these problems. Why can't we just focus on people? Say, look, people need to have the resources so that these things don't happen. If you are a person out there and you're listening to this and you're abusing your partner, stop now. There's no excuse for that, okay? If this is a person you want to spend your life with, why would you want to hurt them, right? Why would you want to make them feel bad? You're going to have to see this person 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And if you're just thinking, well, this is going to be a temporary thing, I'm going to get out of it eventually, get out of it now. Forget it. Walk away from that person. I was the victim of a violent, abusive girlfriend. That relationship didn't last long after the violence started because I'm not going to tolerate that sort of treatment. I went through that treatment throughout most of my childhood with my family, and I wasn't going to put myself into a situation like that as an adult. So I was like, look, I'm gone. See ya. And I looked her up recently. I found her on Facebook. She is now a single divorced mom of 2 children who is riding the alimony pony on the child support resort. It looks like her shenanigans have continued well into her adulthood. We were young back then. And I was naive too. So I was putting up with a lot of stuff that I should not have put up with, a lot of emotional abuse. Yes, I brought baggage to the relationship too. I'm not going to say I was an innocent victim in that relationship, but by far she was the perpetrator. It's really, I mean, society is still built on monogamy. And as much as a lot of people might want to get rid of that notion, feminists, it's really a very good building block for civilization and, in advancing civilization. Anyway, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate everybody stopping by and taking the time to watch my videos. I do these videos for you. I do not make a dime off of them. So please like, comment, and share. That's the way we can beat the algorithm. That's the way I can get to a place where I can offer you more of these types of videos. And I will see you all next time.